Kyiv turned into hell early Tuesday morning, June 2nd, 2026, after Russia launched one of the largest waves of missiles and drones against Ukraine since the beginning of the war. The Ukrainian capital woke up to explosions, smoke, sirens, and air defenses trying to hold back an attack meant to break the population's spirit and force Kyiv to appear helpless in the face of Moscow. Russia used ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, attack drones, and hypersonic weapons to put pressure on Ukrainian cities. At the same time, NATO put fighter jets and defense systems on alert on the Eastern European flank. That's where the war shows its harshest face. When Putin pushes the button for aerial terror, Kyiv runs to the shelters, Zelensky demands Patriot systems, and Washington returns to the center of decision-making. What happened? Did Moscow try to prove something? Why did Kyiv become the main target? How will the West react now? I'll tell you all about it. If you like this kind of straightforward and no-nonsense content, consider subscribing because we have videos like this every day. The attack started during the night and continued into the early hours of the morning. The Ukrainian Air Force reported that Russia launched 73 missiles and 656 drones against Ukraine. Among the weapons mentioned were Zircon hypersonic missiles, Skander ballistic missiles, Kh-101 cruise missiles, and Caliber missiles. Kyiv appeared as one of the heaviest targets because it is the political, military, and symbolic center of Ukrainian resistance. Moscow didn't just want to hit structures, it wanted to show strength over the capital, at the heart of Volodymyr Zelensky's government. The Ukrainian defense managed to shoot down or neutralize a huge part of the wave launched by Russia. Reports indicate that 40 missiles and 602 drones were intercepted or suppressed. Even so, dozens of targets were hit in several regions. This shows the scale of the Russian tactic, launching so many drones and missiles at the same time that the defense has to choose priorities in seconds. When everything comes together, Kyiv is under maximum pressure. The images circulating from Kyiv show flashes in the sky, smoke over entire neighborhoods, burning cars and buildings hit by direct impact or debris. The capital was not hit in isolation. It was engulfed by a sequence of coordinated attacks with shots coming from different directions. Russia tried to create a night of calculated fear, using quantity and speed to wear down the Ukrainian systems. Even with the interceptions, the noise of the explosions made it clear that air defense handles part of the attack, but it can't eliminate the risk when Moscow decides to saturate the sky. Dnipro also entered the map of destruction. Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, Poltava, and other areas were mentioned among the places hit. The Russian strategy was to spread pressure to prevent Kyiv from concentrating all its defenses in the capital. Ukraine had to protect urban centers, infrastructure, logistical routes, and strategic facilities at the same time. The attack was not just against a building or a base. It was an attempt to spread panic and force the Ukrainian government to spend expensive interceptors against a barrage of mixed threats. Moscow claims it hit military facilities, depots, airports, and structures linked to the defense industry. The Kremlin also tried to present the attack as a response to previous Ukrainian actions. But the effect seen in Kyiv and other cities was directly on civilian life, with damaged neighborhoods, disrupted services, residents in shelters, and emergency teams working in the dark. It is exactly at this point that the Russian narrative loses strength when confronted with the images. When the capital appears covered in smoke, the discourse of military precision becomes too heavy to sustain. Zelensky reacted by demanding more air defense. Ukraine once again asked for Patriot systems because they are decisive against ballistic missiles. Kyiv knows that drones can be dealt with using different layers of defense. But the Skander and other fast missiles require more advanced technology. Without more interceptors, Ukraine is forced to choose which city to protect first. And when Moscow launches hundreds of drones along with dozens of missiles, each Patriot battery becomes a political and military asset of great value. Trump enters this scenario because Zelensky started directly pressuring Washington for new systems. The war exposes a simple truth. When Ukraine needs heavy defense, the phone points to the United States. Europe talks a lot, makes a lot of promises, and announces packages, but the system that Kyiv wants the most comes from the American arsenal. This puts the White House at the center of the crisis and forces European allies to take on more responsibility. The pressure on Moscow is not resolved with a diplomatic note. It depends on radar, interceptor missiles, intelligence, and political decision. Poland raised its alert level during the Russian offensive. Polish and Allied fighter jets were put into preventive operation to protect NATO airspace. Ground defense systems and radars also went on maximum alert. Warsaw acted because the war has already reached the alliance's borders several times. Days earlier, a Russian drone hit a residential building in Romania, a NATO member nation, leaving civilians injured and raising an alert that cannot be treated as a common accident. When missiles fly near borders, a course error can turn into an international crisis. The reaction on the Eastern European flank shows that Kyiv is not alone on Moscow's radar. Poland, Romania, and the Baltic nations see each Russian attack as a warning about the future of their own security. The discussion, revealed on Tuesday, about expanding the American nuclear presence in Europe arose precisely from this fear. According to international reports, the United States is considering talks with NATO allies about new bases for aircraft capable of carrying nuclear weapons, especially in areas close to the Russian border. This does not mean the immediate use of nuclear weapons. It means a message of deterrence. If Moscow tries to scare Europe, Washington can move much heavier pieces. Russia knows that this kind of attack has a political effect. Each explosion in Kyiv turns into pressure on Zelensky, on Trump, on NATO, and on European governments. Putin tries to show that he still has ammunition, range, and the ability to impose a high cost on Ukraine. The problem for Moscow is that this method also pushes Western allies toward tougher decisions. The bigger the attack, the greater the demand for Patriots, fighter jets, radars, ammunition, and sanctions. Russian brutality is frightening, but it can also speed up responses that the Kremlin wanted to avoid. The attack also reveals the logic of sanction. Saturation has become a hallmark of Russian aerial warfare. First, a large number of drones come in to map, confuse, and wear down the defense. Then, cruise and ballistic missiles appear, targeting strategic points. In some cases, rarer weapons are used to test the Ukrainian response and create psychological impact. Kyiv spent the night dealing with this entire package. The capital didn't just face explosions, it faced a pressure campaign designed to open gaps in layers of defense that are already working at their limit. I'm Milson Alves, an international affairs specialist, and my purpose is to keep you well informed with the facts every day. The news links are in the video description. Leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and at the end check out the comments so you can be even more engaged with the Milson Alves community.